So I've been asking for a couple weeks, what is this show about? And after Star Wars Celebration, I think I know the answer. Hey everyone, Hawk Starwing here. Welcome back to the channel. It's once again 4 in the morning and I just finished watching the last episode of The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 7. Alright, I gotta be frank. It wasn't a bad episode. There were some things I didn't like on it, sure, but it wasn't a terrible episode. It's just a shame that here we are, 7 episodes into an 8-episode season, and now we're starting to see the series, how it's turning out. So, wow, there's a lot to break down here. As usual, let's go through a breakdown and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. So the episode begins with a shot of Night City, where, it's not really cyberpunk. We're in Coruscant, but it definitely looks like Night City for some reason. And then we see Moff Gideon's communication officer just walking around, just trying to hide herself. And what do we see when she goes into a dark alley? We see an old Imperial droid just floating around, and there she gets a communication message from Moff Gideon. And they're talking about the issues with the Mandalorians and everything that's transpiring. Moff Gideon informs her to keep getting intel, and that's the last we see of her. Good. But from there, something very interesting happened. We move over to a meeting of what I'm assuming are different Moffs left around the galaxy, where we have some former Imperial leaders still controlling some parts of the galaxy, I guess. I'm assuming they're small bands, kind of similar to what Gideon had. We are introduced to a couple of these, but one to note that I really did like was they introduced Captain Pellaeon from Heir to the Empire from the old books. It's a great character. After Thrawn is killed, joins the New Republic and becomes a great ally to the New Republic, which I don't know if we're gonna see this in this Filoniverse now, but it would be interesting to see for sure. There's another notable character in there, which is I didn't catch his first name. We only heard his last name, and his last name was Hux. Hux being the last name for that character from the sequel trilogy, which, sure. He was there. Apparently, he's the one that supplies everybody else with weapons, soldiers, ships, things like that. Moff Gideon's explaining to them. It looks like at this point, the Mandalorians are becoming an issue again. He wants to get rid of them. And he's commissioning a full arsenal. Ships, bombardier ships, soldiers. But interesting to note, he requested 3 patrolling guards. I don't know. I didn't watch the sequels, but they're the red how you gonna call them? The red guards that we see on The Last Jedi that Kylo Ren and Rey fight off in Snoke's throne room. So sure, I guess, fine. Not the biggest fan of the sequel trilogy, but let's continue. Something to note, Pellaeon is awaiting the arrival of Grand Admiral Thrawn, which we last saw in Rebels, who had disappeared along with Ursa Bridger. Now, according to recent rumors, we know that more likely he's in this new area called the Great Beyond, but I'm going to make a whole new video regarding that, so let's not focus on that. But Pellaeon is waiting for Thrawn to arrive, and they do mention the Heir to the Empire, which is definitely very cool. That is my favorite Star Wars book. It's the first Star Wars book I ever read when I was 9 years old, so I'm very cool to hear that for sure. From that little scene, we move over to Navarro, where all of a sudden everybody's rebuilding the city. That's definitely very cool, but we do see a giant shadow overlooming the entire city. From there, we move into Grief Kargas's office, and we see the droid again just running around screaming, "Oh my god, it's an Imperial ship, they're here to attack us." But he notices the emblem on the ship and tells the droid, "That's okay, they're our friends. It's perfectly okay, look at the markings. Don't worry, let's go greet them. They're our welcome guests." And turns out, yeah, underneath the ship, well, at least the big one, they had the giant Mandalore symbol just painted on. Pretty cool. From there, we see the giant ship just arriving, all the former Night Owls arriving to meet the Children of the Watch. And you can see a little bit of tension, especially when the Night Owls start taking off their helmets. And it's almost funny. You don't see the Mandalorians' faces from the Children of the Watch, but you can pretty sure guess that their faces are like, "Oh, great, one of these people. Oh no, that's fantastic. They're taking their helmets off. Sure, we're gonna rebuild Mandalore together, whatever." But at that point, the armorer shows up and says, A, they're all welcome guests. B, let's make a feast for our guests. So let's get to work. So they do make a feast. And you have Mandalorians all together, Children of the Watch, you have Night Owls, eating together, breaking bread. No one really kind of communicating to one another. Now, at this point, Grief Karga arrives with his droid, comes to Mando, greets Mando, gives him some wine, which she mentions is from Coruscant. All right, pretty neat, pretty nice, pretty neat. And then tells him, "Hey, I have another gift for you. Come with me." So they go back to his office, and we see IG-11, which is now IG-12, being piloted inside by Ansolian, I don't know, Boba Freak people. Grief Karga tells him it's a gift for the little one. He can definitely get used to it. The Ansalians removed the memory core, and the Ansalians just installed some controls, so that way Grogu could pilot the IG-11 droid, now IG-12. I guess it's a Gundam now. Fantastic, that's great. Then it's very against this. Grief Karga is trying to convince him to get on. Just grabs Grogu, puts him in. Grogu immediately loves it. Apparently, he has some buttons where he can say yes and no. So when Din says, "All right, come Grogu, let's get out of here," he presses the no button, and you hear a very low monotone no, which I guess is a little bit funny. And Grief Karga tells him, "Look, let him try it out. Let him walk around in my office, see how he likes it." And he starts pressing that yes button. So I guess he likes that. He tries to walking around, knocks a couple things, comedy ensues and all that kind of stuff. All right, good deal. From there, Mando moves away from the office. He's walking around the streets of Navarro. Grogu passes by a street vendor, steals some food, starts eating it. Din tells him, "Look, stop, you have to pay for that." He keeps blasting the no button. So when Din takes away the food, Grogu just steals more food away and just makes a mess of the whole thing. Because we have to make it funny. Because it's Disney and everything needs to be funny. So during this awkward dinner, Bo-Katan decides to just go in and tell everyone, "Okay, everybody, new plan. I know everybody's kind of chill here, but we're gonna retake Mandalore. So this is my idea. Let's go ahead and take a small group. Let's go to Mandalore. Let's secure the area around the Green Forge. And once we know it's safe and we have a perimeter, we'll go bring everyone up, and then we can start rebuilding from there." She asked for some volunteers. Nobody says anything because obviously everyone's like, "No, dude, you just got the dark saber back. No, we're good, thank you." Din being Din just is the first one to say that he'll volunteer, which I'm assuming volunteered Grogu at the same time without Grogu spamming either the yes or the no button, which I'm assuming he would have said no, but it would have been funny, but whatever. But Din volunteers. Immediately right after that, we see Axe Wolves volunteers as well from the Night Owls. And Paz Vizsla from the Children of Watch volunteers, and then everybody starts jumping up and volunteering. And Bo-Katan, you can see almost have a tear in the eye that, "Oh, we're getting everybody together. Fantastic." From there, they arrive to Mandalore. They deploy from one of the ships, and we see all the Mandalorians arriving in a really cool scene, like all dropping down, like if it was like, I don't know, like a Call of Duty drop off. It was pretty neat, I guess. They're scoping out the area. Some are saying that they were there when that was destroyed. Some say that they couldn't believe that this was Mandalore, right? So definitely very emotional. But all of a sudden, from the far, they do see like a ship just arriving towards them. And the ship stops. We get two surviving Mandalorians out there. And they ask if she's Bo-Katan Kryze. She says yes. So they pledge her allegiance, and they say that, "Look, we're hungry, you have food, like, please feed us. You're our leader, like, we're hungry, please feed us." So obviously she says she has food, so everybody gets into this massive barge. Everybody starts eating. They start explaining that after the Night of a Thousand Tears, that's when Mandalore was pretty much wiped from the galaxy at that point, right? Where some survived, some just stuck around Mandalore, and they were surviving, just skating around different parts or different continents of Mandalore, just trying to survive in this terrible environment now. After this scene, we see Bo just staring out on the horizon, just pondering, wondering with a sad look on her face. Tim walks back behind her. We have this pretty nifty little exchange where Din lets her know that, hey, look, like, I didn't know you had it this bad. We didn't know it was just this terrible. Because she explained on that second dinner that we have with this new other set of Mandalorians, right? She didn't fight Moff Gideon. She basically surrendered when the Empire came to attack Mandalore. She surrendered to try to save everyone else, but the Empire, being the Empire, just turned her back on her and started just destroying Mandalore. And the only thing she could do to kind of stop that destruction was to give up the Darksaber, and she gave it to Moff Gideon. So there wasn't a battle, there wasn't anything epic. She just handed it over. So that whole thing about the Darksaber needed to be won in combat makes just literally no sense. So from there, Din tells her, look, like, I admire you, I respect you, like, I can't believe you had the courage to do that kind of stuff. We still believe in you, I still follow you. And she seems definitely very pleased and a bit relieved to hear that, which, alright, good deal. The show is about Bo-Katan now, it's not about Din Djarin anymore, so, sure. So from there, we're sailing on the barge, all the Mandalorians in there, and we see Axe Wolves, and we see Paz Vizsla just playing a game of space chess, I guess. They start complaining about a move that Paz Vizsla did that wasn't particularly part of the game, but Paplisa says it was, but Axe Wolf says it isn't. So they decide to fight. And then everybody's just staring out like, oh man, they're fighting. They're like kids again. And Din tells Bo, oh, I should go in there and split them up. Bo says, no, none of the both parties should intervene with this. So they start into a fight, and for some reason, it's like almost 12-year-olds, right? They start like beating each other, and then Grogu steps in and just kind of stops the thing and just starts spamming the no button on his IG-12 droid, just like to get them to stop. And they did. They actually listened to Grogu, and they all stepped aside. Bo-Katan told Din that you have taught your disciple well, where Din tells her, oh, I didn't teach him that. So that's a little nod. Okay, that's some Jedi training, obviously. Pretty cool. So after the whole fight scene, the armor talks to Bo, tells her that there's a lot of sick Mandalorians there, that she feels like it's a good idea for her to take these sick Mandalorians over to the ships just so they can get medical treatment. Bo-Katan agrees that they were going to do that on first light, so that way the armor can go with the sick. The remaining Mandalorians there are going to help seek the Great Forge of Mandalore, which one of the Mandalorians that stayed behind on Mandalore told her, like, don't worry about it. We know where it is. We'll take you there. You're good. You fed us. We are definitely happy. You did the bare minimum that you could have done throughout all these years, and we are going to follow you. Who cares? So they make it to the Great Forge, basically. They're arriving on the Cell Forge. This giant monster pops up because, I guess it's Power Rangers again, and it's the monster of the week, but this time they just run away from the monster and they hid inside of a cave. They start making their way towards the Great Forge. They start noticing a couple of odd things, where they start seeing TIE fighters and TIE interceptors and Empire stuff around there. And then they get ambushed by a bunch of what it looks to be Mandalorian Empire soldiers for some reason. So they all start fighting, as usual, Mandalorians. A bunch of them start dying. Obviously, they start just screaming these new stormtroopers. But they get to a point where it's too many stormtroopers, so they all run away. And once they make it to a certain area, they're blocked off by the Empire using bay doors. And it's at this point on episode 7 of an 8-episode season where the bad guy finally shows up. Thank you, Star Wars. Awesome. Kind of interesting though, Moff Gideon is wearing a black Mandalorian armor. He has horns on his helmet as well, very similar to the ones that the armor has. But I'm gonna talk about that at the end when I give you guys my thoughts. From there, all the Mandalorians are trapped, with the exception of a couple Mandalorians that are out there, including Din Djarin as well. But the stormtroopers kill everyone else except for Din Djarin, who these new stormtroopers have the same equipment that the Mandalorians have, and they kind of trap him with the little like I don't know, rocket things with the string on it. I don't know, who cares? But they pin him down. So Din is trapped. Moff Gideon tells them that they're gonna disarm him. They do. He threatens Din, and then he tells the stormtroopers to take him off to the briefing room. For some reason, I don't know why they didn't tell him there, but thankfully they didn't. Because, I mean, I guess this is the Bo-Katan show again. They didn't kill Din, thankfully, so that's good. So then the Mandalorians are trapped. At this point, that's when Bo-Katan whips out the Darksaber, makes a hole to make everyone escape out the back. Paz Vizsla says, "Don't worry, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to cover everybody's retreat." At that point, they open the blast doors and the stormtroopers start coming in, but Paz Vizsla starts gunning everybody down. So definitely very good. But unfortunately, Paz Vizsla, even though he did the best that he could and he killed all the stormtroopers there, 3 patrolling guards arrive from the sequels, and unfortunately, they do kill him. It's a shame, which something I want to talk about at the end of my thoughts as well. But this is how the episode ends. So let me give you guys my thoughts. Again, not a bad episode, but why did we have to wait until episode 7 of an 8-episode season to get the story out? If this would have been episode 5, on board. But wow, what a terrible season, honestly. There were even shots on this episode where Din wasn't even in the focus. He was in the corner. You could see the corner of his arm. And you're like, but why? And based on what we saw in Celebration this week, which a video is going to come out at some point in Celebration that I've been working on for a while now, it's all about all the Mandalorians, not just Din. And you can even see that Grogu is at one point sitting on Bo-Katan's lap while she's flying the ship at some point, and you're like, wow, dude, really? We're really doing this? I guess Pedro isn't coming back to the show, so we want to focus Grogu with Bo-Katan now. So that's fine. Din is not going to be important to the story. Hope they don't kill him. I really do like the character, but we'll see what happens. And Paz Vizsla now is no longer going to be part of the show anymore. Paz Vizsla has been killed, which some of the rumors that we heard during Celebration that unfortunately Jon Favreau is not going to return back to The Mandalorian. He's done with Star Wars. He had a big falling out with Kathy during the Book of Boba Fett, and he's been phoning it in, which I think explains a lot of this season, unfortunately. This season has been all over the place. I think that definitely gives us a good reason as to what, number one, why this season has been a disaster, at least in my take. And number two, killing off his character. They're really getting rid of John, which is just a shame. There were a couple mentions in there from the sequel trilogy that I personally didn't like because I'm not a big fan of those movies, unfortunately. They were not made for me. I completely understand that, and that's perfectly fine. But those are my thoughts, right? So for the people that do enjoy them, I'm pretty glad that you guys are enjoying getting your nods in there. So that's cool for you guys. But for the rest of us that don't particularly like those movies, we're kind of like, all right, cool. Couple cool things in there, some cool action scenes that I really did enjoy. That was definitely very awesome. Definitely did enjoy as well that we not only get a mention of Grand Admiral Thrawn coming back and mentioning he's the heir to the Empire, but we see Captain Pelion from the Heir to the Empire books, which is just awesome. I love that character, so that's definitely very cool. So again, not a terrible episode. Unfortunately, we are headed to sequel territory. There is no denying it now, like especially when we have things like Daddy Huts in there and Petroleum Guards and things like that. So it is where we're going. It is subtle. It's not like it's invading the story for sure. We still have plenty of time to go until we make it there. But it's unfortunate it had to happen on The Mandalorian. If this would have been a whole nother show, if it would have been just The Mandalorians or another name entirely, I think I would have been a little bit better off. Where honestly, The Mandalorian should have ended at season 2, and this should have been a whole nother show. And I think it would have gone a little bit better with those Star Wars fans that have been with it for way too long, and unfortunately now we're stuck with whatever Star Wars we're getting. So it is what it is. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this episode. Go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. I definitely would appreciate it. And if you like the video, you know the drill. Go ahead and give it a like. If you enjoy the content, go ahead and subscribe. I would definitely appreciate it. There's a big video I'm working on covering a lot of things from Star Wars Celebration that I'm actually very excited and looking forward to completing so I can get to you guys. That's going to be it for me. Thank you once again for stopping by the corner of my internet here. And until next time, talk to you later.